Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh video. So in today's video, we are continuing the series where we rank the 10 strongest duelists from each Yu-Gi-Oh show. We've done it for Duel Monsters, GX, 5Ds, and Zexal. All of those will be linked down below, and today we are doing it for Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. Just a quick reminder, we are ranking these characters at their strongest point of dueling power, and I am including legacy characters. There's 3 legacy characters that made this for me, so I will show the list if legacy characters were not included as well. So you could even view this as a 13 strongest duelists in Arc 5. But without further ado, let's get into it. Leave your thoughts down below, and I hope you enjoy. Number 10, Yuto. So the first of 4 U-Boys just barely makes this list, and honestly, Yuto is not a bad duelist at all, but there are a lot of really good duelists in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 anime that it makes Yuto just barely eligible for this list. The real issue with Yuto for me is we just didn't see enough of him. He was killed off very early on in the show, and even though many of us thought he would get revived and be in his own body at some point later on down the road, that never really happened. So we see him take over for Yuya during the Edo duel, or really duel alongside Yuya, like against Serena and Yuri, when Zark was really coming out during the Odd Eyes Raging Dragon sequence. But other than that, we never really saw Yuto duel post-episode, what was it, like 33? Now, he was shown to be a pretty good duelist, but there's a lot of characters that we just saw more of, and so Yuto is the first of the 4 U-Boys that makes this list at number 10. Number 9, Shun. So Yuto's best friend hailing from the Xyz dimension, I honestly thought was going to be a lot higher on this list. He's one of my favorite characters in the show, but I had to be fair when I ranked him, and he did lose a few duels really to the legacy characters. He lost to Kaido, and he lost to Crow, and I think Shun is the perfect example of legacy characters really nerfing his ability as a duelist and his strength as a duelist because he lost to them in the middle and towards the end of the shows. Now, Shun is a really great duelist, but again, there's a lot of really good duelists in Arc 5. He also lost to Sora in the rematch, so I feel like Shun was probably at his peak when he defeated Sora in one of the best duels ever during the tournament, and then he always just kind of floundered a little bit and never really got to that next level, losing more than he won. So Shun makes the list for me, but it is lower than I initially thought it would be at number 9. Number 8, Crow. So Crow is the first of, as I said, 3 legacy characters making this list. I do have him a little bit ahead of Shun because he beat Shun, and much like in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, Crow is a dueling gauntlet, defeating many characters that he came up and faced. The reason he is a little bit lower, again, is because there's a lot of really good duelists in Arc 5. I know 8th might seem really low, but I genuinely believe the other 7 characters ahead of him are stronger than him. Crow did lose to the Battle Beast. He was actually killed off by the Battle Beast before being revived and then losing again to Zark, which is really no shame in any of that. Crow did also lose to Yuya at the end of the Synchro tournament, and after he got a few wins, he, very similarly to Shun, started losing at a pretty consistent clip. So I think 8th is pretty fair for Crow. Number 7, Hugo. So Hugo might be a little low for some people here, but I'll kind of explain my reasoning. Hugo is a really good duelist. Genuinely, though, I think he's only the 3rd best of the 4 U-Boys, and I also think his stock and his dueling strength took a little bit of a hit when he lost to Rin. It was one of the biggest upset duels probably in Yu-Gi-Oh! History, in my opinion. Rin, who had never really dueled before, it was actually her only duel in the show, defeated Yugo, which was a crazy result. Now, that ended up being Yugo's only loss until he ran into Yuri, but Yugo is a really tough duelist. I just think some of the results at the end kind of hurt his dueling strength ability, which is really the case for actually a lot of the characters we've gone over so far. And so I think Yugo does come in at lucky number 7 in the rankings. Number 6, Kaido. We just ranked Kaido in the Zexal video, and Kaido is at the top of the list. How is he number 6th here? Well, Kaido is really good, but he lost his last 2 duels. He lost to Yuri in a 3-on-1 assault. They weren't able to beat Yuri. Him, Edo, and Hugo. And then, of course, he lost to Zark. Now, there's not really any shame in losing to those 2 characters, but that's the reason why I feel Arc 5 Kaido was not nearly as strong as Zexal Kaido, who did not lose a single duel except to Tron, where he was being heavily manipulated. Kaido got really impressive wins over Gangenzaka and Shingo, and an impressive win over Shun, as well as Dennis Macfield. And so Kaido, to me, is number 6 because of those 2 losses at the end, and I think that's fair. Number 5, the Master of Faster, Jack Atlas, and this rounds off the legacy characters. So Jack was shown to be a really tough opponent, a great duelist in Arc 5, and yet he's only just barely cracking the top 5. Jack had some great moments in Arc 5, defeating Yuya early on, and then of course he lost the rematch, putting up an amazing fight against Zark before being taken out by Zark, the main villain of the show, and losing to Yuya again in a really good rematch duel. Jack, I think, was the strongest of all the legacy characters. He's one of the strongest characters in the entire show, and I think number 5 is rightfully fitting for him. Number 4, Yuri. So I believe Yuri is a little weaker than Yuya in terms of the U-Boy rankings, and the only reason I feel that way is because Yuya was able to defeat Yuri in Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 near the end of the show. So just from that head-to-head matchup, it's the reason why I think Yuya at full strength, when he has Yuri, Hugo, and Yuto within him, is at his strongest point. And maybe that's a little unfair because he's getting strength from the other 3 U-Boys, so I guess that is an argument you can make. But the parameters of this video state at their strongest point, and Yuya is at his strongest point towards the end of the show, and I think that stronger point is stronger than Yuri. But Yuri, man, was an insane duelist. Literally nobody could touch him, and nobody could defeat him until Yuya eventually brought him down. And remember, Yuya really needed the help of Hugo and Yuto in order to do that in the duel. Yuri was a fantastic villain until his redemption, and I thought he was a really strong duelist throughout, and so I think number 4 is rightfully fitting. Number 3, Akbaraji. Akbaraji is one of my favorite characters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, and I think he's one of the best duelists that we saw throughout Arc 5. The only reason he's lower than Yuya, who is going to be coming up in either 1 or 2, is because Yuya, at his full strength, was able to defeat Reiji in the ceremonial duel of the show, and just because of that result, I have to put Yuya a little bit ahead of Reiji. But for the entirety of the show, and if you want to just look at Yuya when the U-Boys are not within him, Akbaraji is stronger than Yuya. He is one of the strongest rival characters we have ever seen. He's one of the few rival characters that actually defeated a main villain of the arc all by himself when he took down Jean-Michel Raget at the end of the Synchro arc. I can't sing enough praise about Akbaraji. He was an awesome character, super strong duelist, super formidable rival, and he comes in at a very respectable number 3 position on this list. Number 2, Yuya. So Yuya, I just have missing out on the top spot, and I really think that this is tough to rank only because of the parameters of the list. I always like to rank these characters at their strongest point. And what was Yuya's strongest point? Well, it was at the end of the show, but he had Yugo, he had Yuto, he had Yuri, all within him, all helping out his deck and helping out his character and his dueling prowess. But I think because of the parameters of this video, that leads Yuya to being number 2. Yuya might even be below Yuri, honestly, and be 4th if the other U-Boys are not within him, because I always felt Yuri was stronger than Yuya, but Yuya did gain the power of Yuto and Hugo throughout Arc 5, and then when he gained the power of Yuri, he was just a very, very good duelist, capable of taking out Jack Atlas, Akbaraji, Shun, Dennis. I mean, he just had a gauntlet at the end of Arc 5, where we saw Yuya's powerful dueling abilities shine. So Yuya, for those reasons, is number 2, really because of the version of him at the end. If we're just looking at Yuya generally, I think he's probably number 4. Number 1, Zark. So we've talked about, well, Yuya's got the power of Yuri, Hugo, Yuto. Well, imagine a character that has the power of darkness, Yuya, Yuri, Hugo, and Yuto, and that is Zark. It took like 11 duelists to beat this guy. I mean, Zark had one of the most impressive losing performances we have ever seen in a Yu-Gi-Oh show. I mean, he beat Edo, he beat Sora, he beat Shingo, he beat Crow, he beat Jack, he beat Akbaraji, he beat all these amazing, amazing duelists. Shun and Kaido as well. I mean, it was crazy to watch. And then finally, Ray stepped in, and Ray was able to defeat him using the power of the cards that she had. But Zark, man, is one of the more stronger OP villains in probably Yu-Gi-Oh history, and I genuinely believe he was the strongest duelist, and that's why it took 11 characters in order to take him down in Yu-Gi-Oh Arc 5. Now, if you remove the legacy characters, Jack, Kaido, and Crow, I would have Serena, Sora, and Yuzu in that order, and that would kind of be the list. So Serena would be 8th, Sora would be 9th, Yuzu would be 10th. That would be my order of ranking the strongest duelists if you removed the legacy characters. And guys, that wraps it up. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed my ranking of the 10 strongest duelists in Arc 5. Let me know what I got right. Let me know what I got wrong down below in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day. Take care, guys.